Hello, welcome to Writing Assessments. I'm Julie.
And I'm Carmen. Okay, so our learning objectives for today is we're going to build a deeper understanding of how to create assessments aligned with learning objectives. We're going to compare and contrast formative assessments with summative assessments. And we hope by the end you have developed some initial assessments aligned with your learning objectives.
There's some key terms we want to review. Some may be familiar. Course goals, learning objectives, and assessment. You should already have seen the video on course goals and learning objectives. Again, a course goal is a broad statement of what you intend to teach, and it's not directly measurable. So overall, what do I want my students to get out of the course? Learning objectives are brief statements that clearly define what students will be expected to learn, and they should be measurable. So skills, knowledge, attitudes, behaviors that they will gain from the instruction. An assessment is a process of systematically examining and refining the fit between course activities and student performance. It's both to demonstrate learning and revise instruction.
So why is this important? This is important because effective assessment is aligned with learning objectives. It really is important to have those assessments aligned with the learning objectives that you have for the course. And as a participant in this workshop, you will be able to develop diagnostics, formative, and summative assessments to evaluate student learning and instructional effectiveness.
So where does this fit into our training paradigm? This module, again, explains how to develop assessments, and it's aligned with both teacher and learner concepts, the skills and knowledge that the teacher brings, and the skills and knowledge that a learner is developing.
So we have from course goals to instruction, and you may have seen this in other modules that we've done so far. But again, course goals are what should my students know, feel, or be able to do by the course ends. Learning objectives, what tangible skills, knowledge, attitudes, or behaviors will students gain as a result of my instruction. When we think about assessment, how well do students demonstrate learning? And is instruction helping students to achieve those learning goals?
And objectives.
And curriculum and instruction, how will you assist students in achieving goals and objectives? This module is focusing on assessment. So we're really using this module for how well the students demonstrate learning, and is instruction helping students to achieve their learning objectives.
And we're going to teach you how to answer that question. So this is a large diagram that shows three kinds of assessments: diagnostic assessments, formative assessments, and summative assessments. We're going to walk through each of these. Diagnostic assessments are used before instruction to determine the best strategies for helping students to learn material. They tend to be no or low stakes. And that means when we talk about stakes, we're typically talking about a grade in a course. No stakes means there's no grade associated with it. It's something students do for you before the instruction begins. They also might be low stakes, and that might look like points for participation or extra credit. And diagnostics are used to identify where students are to inform your planning process. You might plan a course and then find out that your students have already learned all that material, or have not learned some of the material that you thought they would know before taking your course. Some options for doing a diagnostic assessment might be a survey, an inventory, a checklist, a self-evaluation where students tell you what they think they already know, or a pretest.
And then we have formative assessments. So formative assessments take place typically during the instruction. They are often in the moment type of assessments. They can be low or high stakes. Again, low stakes meaning it may not be for a grade. It could be just to understand where the students are at that very moment.
Participation point, something like small like that.
Or it could be higher stakes where they can earn a grade. So formative assessments, again, are in the moment. So you may possibly be teaching something. You want to take a pause to see if students are really understanding that concept. And because you have done this formative assessment, you're going to take immediate action. So you may change the direction that you're going with that particular instruction. You may need to add some content to help students understand more the teaching that you're trying to deliver. So it really is in the moment, immediate insight, just-in-time instructions. So some options for that could be quizzes. Nowadays, as we talk about using technology, it could be quizzes on the phone, clickers, things of that sort, homework assignments, presentations, or group work.
And you can also use all of the other techniques that we just showed you for diagnostic assessments as formative assessments. So we talk about multiple options for all of these. And then finally, we have summative assessments. So summative assessments are a way to review what learning has occurred and maybe to improve instruction in the future, but not now because instruction is over. Summative assessments happen after instruction. They tend to mostly be high stakes, so for a grade. And they may also be low stakes. Sometimes we give points for participation for these. And they really do document learning and retention on the part of students. So typically, these look like exams, final projects, reports, presentations, essays, etc., course portfolios, which document learning over the entire course, or students reflecting on what they feel like they have learned. Every assessment, diagnostic, formative, or summative, must be accompanied by a rubric, and that's a tool for evaluating performance. There are two kinds of rubrics we want to just tell you about right now. They're analytic and holistic. Holistic rubrics evaluate overall performance. What is the overall judgment of a student's performance? So for example, if we have students giving a presentation, that overall judgment might look like, how well did the student do in conveying the story that they wanted to convey? That's the overall judgment, and you give them a grade from 0 to 100. An analytical rubric looks to see if the performance is sufficient, is it improving, or is it above average? And you tend to, in analytical evaluations, have very specific criteria, and you evaluate each of those criteria. So for a presentation, it might be, did the student use color effectively in their presentation? Did their presentation contain all 6 components that were required? Did they speak for 10 minutes or less? Were they using language that is consistent with what we were teaching in the course? So analytic and holistic, you can see the difference. One is overall, one is based on pieces. You do want to have a rubric for every assessment, regardless of what kind of assessment it is.
All right, and now it's your turn. So you probably have seen this objective before, but I'm going to go over it again and read it to you. So given all necessary data and models, the student will be able to calculate risk of a pathogen exposure within 10% deviation from known risk. So we're going to ask you to take 10 minutes to think about how would you assess this objective. Before, determine the best strategies for teaching students, which is diagnostic. During, which track progress and adjust instruction, which is more of a formative. And then after, we have review of learning and improve future instruction, which is really summative. So thinking about these, how would you do before, during, and after? And then Julie?
Yeah, so these assessments can look similar. They can look very different. How would you diagnose students' ability to answer this question? How would you track students' ability to answer this question during instruction? And how would you review students' ability to answer this question after instruction? Hit pause, take 10 minutes, and we'll be back.
So in conclusion, learning objectives lead to assessment. They are not two different things. They are connected and should be connected. An assessment can be used to decide on teaching approaches, track progress, review learning, and improve teaching. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen.
Thanks, Julie.